Good evening. Welcome to the Town Council meeting for September 27th, 2018. And we're calling to order at 6:30 p.m. We need to go into an executive session, actually two, to discuss the litigation regarding wood subdivision and contract negotiations, because an opening meeting may have detrimental effect on the position of the town with the intent to go back into open session. We also have a possible vote for executive session on the second part to discuss the DPW laborers contract, because an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the position of the town with the intent to go back to open session. So it looks like approximately 15 to 20 minutes to give you an idea. I can't be exact, but just to give you an idea, that probably is the time frame when we will come back and start out with the public participation. I'll let you sign in then as well, but if I could ask everyone here, just bear with us for 15, 20 minutes, but we have to ask you to leave. So no offense, we like you, but we have to ask you to go.
Come back.
Yeah.
Well, you can come back.
You
Come
can
back,
come
though.
back.
Promise.
To close
It's
the-
nothing personal either.
session,
It's
so-
nothing personal. About 15, 20, but we'll open the doors when everyone can come back. Okay.
We got Rick.
Yeah, we need a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session.
Second?
All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, roll call, sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Okay, so we are now
Executive session.
into executive session. Welcome back to the September 27th, 2018 meeting. We're now out of executive session. Sorry about the delay, but very important matters. So on to public participation. If we have, we could have Leo, is it Chachaga? Come on.
Yeah, but I'll defer to Karen over here.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Would it be possible, he can do it now, but would it be possible for him to have time right after my little presentation, might make more sense?
Sure, if you just have 3 minutes
You want me
each.
to start
Sure,
with
no, why don't
right
you
now?
both can come up to the table.
No, presentation. She's on her agenda tonight. She's gonna come
Oh,
up.
I see. Your
That
agenda
makes
item.
sense, yeah.
Right.
Is it now on the agenda?
We can add that to it. That's fine.
Yeah,
That's
it would
fine.
make more sense to you.
That's fine. So we just move on to Rich Stevens. Come on up. Come on up to the table and state your name and address. And now, just to remind you, just in case some people in the public may have forgotten. So there's a 3-minute limit and there's no interaction back and forth. So you make your statement and then we'll think about it and move on maybe to the next meeting if it comes up again. But just to let you know, 3 minutes, and Steve has his watch phone moving. So
I'm
welcome.
Richard Stevens, 237 Vernon Street, Wakefield. Tonight representing WCNA, Wakefield Center Neighborhood Association. We're speaking on park benches, specifically the part about plaques and memorial benches. We installed a number of benches on the Memorial Common several years ago, or paid for them, I should say. And since that time, we've discussed policy. We've had a lot of requests from citizens who wish to have plaques placed on benches. Our benches are the benches we paid for and put on the common, or other benches around the lake. We decided that we didn't want them. We didn't want the plaques there. Or if we did have them, that they would be very modest in size. Part of our thinking was aesthetics, the way it looked. Another part of the reason was the difficulty of deciding who should be memorialized on a bench. We obviously have a very few benches to use for that purpose, and it's entirely possible that somebody else is coming down the line who is more deserving of the memorial. So that was our rationale, and basically that's our position today.
Very good. Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Okay, so that's it for the public. Okay, next we have 3 is personal appointments, liaison update. So, Julie, did you want to just touch on the WMGLD?
Sure.
And give us kind of an update with Department of Public Works
Yes.
as well?
So, since being appointed the liaison to the Light Department, I've met with the General Manager, Peter Dion, and I participated in the commissioners' meetings. They are governed by commissioners, as we know. I attended their September 12th meeting, which was very well attended, not only by the commissioners, but the public should know that it is an open meeting to the public, and there were 3 members of the public there as well. The main items that I would like to relay, it's worth checking out the new website. There are now online applications for activities that were not previously online, including new connections, and there'll be content coming in the future as well. In terms of looking forward, there's a great discussion about winter heating needs. Many may know that in New England, natural gas is severely curtailed due to the infrastructure, and prices are likely to be substantially higher than last year. And so they are working to not only prepare themselves by looking at kind of diversity of heating resources, but working with weatherization programs, heating assistant programs, and the like. So I think there'll be a lot more information on that coming out, as well as looking at towards the future and some long-term planning, things like electric heat pumps that are particularly useful for large buildings and commercial multifamily residential buildings. The Light Department's working on a customer survey, so we have about 10,000 households in Wakefield, and so a couple thousand will likely receive a call from the Light Department about customer survey, customer satisfaction, and they really encourage everybody to respond to that, because that will inform their strategic planning going forward. Our department, and I should say our, because really, I mean, this is all of Wakefield, we are participating in a pilot program for battery storage, which is one of the first actually in the state. There are a number of municipal utilities participating in it. So there's a 3-megawatt battery storage project that will go online later this fall or early this winter that basically collects 3 megawatts of power from the grid when prices are low or negative, and then it can be used throughout town when there are peak demands and prices might be higher. So that should be an overall savings. They participated in the mutual aid to the Merrimack Valley, as I know some of our other town employees did. And as we know, luckily here in Wakefield, our natural gas infrastructure is very strong. In fact, really, I work in the energy industry, and that was a highly unusual, unfortunate and highly unusual event that happened in the Merrimack Valley. But I know that the Light Department was very gracious in offering their services there. And then just finally on solar, the state is actually in the process of switching over their incentive programs, and so it's still to be determined how municipal utilities will move forward with solar. So that's the Light Department. In terms of the Department of Public Works, I had a nice meeting with Mr. Stinson, our director. As we all know, they are very, very busy. Not least of which is the submission of 30 projects to the Complete Streets program. A number of surrounding communities have gotten some state funding, $200,000, for programs that support streets that are accessible, not only to cars, but biking, walking, and for all ages. And so there were a number of open forums in the last couple of months, and a list of 30 projects is under consideration right now for the state, and I know it's a back and forth process that Mr. Stinson's working hard on. As many people probably know, the Hopkins Street Bridge construction is underway, as are a number of street pavings. And I actually asked Mr. Stinson, as many of us will remember in town meeting, the town voted on extra $300,000 in funding for paving, and that actually was very well used, and we were able to get to 2 or 3, significant more streets this year. So that was definitely a benefit. The National Grid work is starting very soon, which the DPW will be helping oversee, and there'll be the removal of the tracks along Salem Street. And as we remember, that is National Grid for their substation work, but also will be part of the Rails to Trails eventually and hopefully. And we talked a little bit about yard waste. It looks like permits are up for yard waste, and maybe too early to tell whether that's a result of the expanded hours, but seems like a good trend. And then just kind of related to that and to Complete Streets, I just wanted to mention that Steve and I have spoken about it. So every ride share, so Lyft or Uber, that originates in the town of Wakefield, the state put a new law into effect about a year ago where there's a 20-cent surcharge, and of that 20 cents, 10 cents comes directly to the town of Wakefield. And we received about $6,800 last year from that. So that many rides originated in Wakefield, and that money can be set aside, and we'll receive that for the next 10 years, and can be used for projects that are really in line with the Complete Streets concept. So I believe that money has been put in escrow for right now. Hopefully
Just
we can.
segregated.
It's segregated, yeah, it's segregated, and so it kind of has fallen off my radar screen, but I thought it was an important thing for the public to know, because you can feel good every time you're calling a ride share to go somewhere in Wakefield. So I think that is all I have. Thank you.
Excellent. Hey, Jill, just one question. Someone called me today coincidentally on the WMGLD.
Yeah.
The job postings, do they have a website where they post jobs? How does that work for
That's a good question. I would look, I mean, certainly they have a website, and it's
Okay.
been recently revamped.
Okay.
But I don't know the process as to what
I
gets
was just
posted
curious
for how long.
in your travels if you had discovered
Yeah,
that. Okay.
I don't know whether the rules are
I'll
any
check it
different
out
than the
tonight.
state, and I can help look into that.
Okay.
Oh, one thing that did come up at the Light Department, we have changed most of the street lighting in town to LEDs at Savings. The one question they had for us that maybe we can discuss, and maybe Tony, this is something with you on recreation, is how to manage the public lighting at fields. Kind of, who turns them off, who turns them on, so that we're making it efficient, but also being responsive to what the needs of the community and the sports organizations are. So that's something that we should probably get together and talk about at some point. Good, perfect.
Okay. Maybe, do you want to bring up the social services liaison thoughts?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, so, yeah, so this year I get to be the liaison to the social services, and so I meet with kind of the social services agencies in the town to piggyback off a little bit of what Julie said. So the Council on Aging, the Senior Center, will have the Lynn Economic Opportunity group come in. They'll have representatives. They help with fuel assistance. So October 3rd, 17th, and November 17th, they'll be there taking applications for anyone that needs help with fuel assistance or seniors that need help with fuel assistance. WAVE is having their 5K to end domestic violence on October 6th, starting at 9 a.m. So we hope to see a lot of people out there. And then the Human Rights Commission is actually sitting in the audience, so I will let them give their update in a little bit.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, so next we have 3B, so Design Review Board appointment, signed by law. Possible vote to appoint Jeff Steichman at 12 Humphrey Street. I have a motion.
I move that you appoint Jeff Steichman to the Design Review Board position. His resume was incredibly impressive.
And we have a second, and discussion? Paul?
Real briefly, Jeff has vast knowledge of architecture. I mean, if you go to the library right now, you'll see his work in, he helped design the new addition that was put onto that library, and he does a phenomenal job at what he does, and his artwork is even more impressive, and I've seen him do that, and it's actually been on auction. The library piece was outstanding, so I mean, he comes with a lot of credentials, as you saw, and I think it's a great fit for the position.
Great, and the resume is fabulous. Seems like a great fit. Further discussion, Tony?
Not only is his resume fantastic, but he's also a man with a great reputation throughout town, strong family values. So it's certainly somebody that I would want in this position.
Great. Anyone else? Ed?
I could just say from the signed bylaw review committee, we've focused a lot on the aesthetics of the town, and we've had a lot of emphasis on folks in this discipline, either in a design or architecture capacity. So I like the fact that we're able to introduce additional town talent, because in the months and years ahead, I think people like this will play such a pivotal role in helping us with the look and feel of our entire community. So I think that this is a great appointment, given his background and experience.
Good. No further discussion. All in favor of appointing Jeff Steichman to the Design Review Board? In favor? Opposed? So 7-0 in favor. Congratulations, Jeff. Okay, for approval of minutes, regular board minutes, possible vote to approve the September 10th, 2018 minutes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 7-0. Discussion? No. No? We voted. Okay, so presentation 5, action items. First, we have Human Rights Commission, Pina Patel. Possible discussion regarding future projects. Welcome. You have displays. Displays for the camera, so camera 3 will probably catch that. If you both could just introduce yourself, welcome, just so the
Thank you.
folks at home know.
My name's Pina Macharelli.
Okay.
And thank you for including us on the agenda this evening. I'm the chair of the Human Rights Commission, and this is Richard Greif, and he is the vice chair.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you. We would like to tell you a little bit about the Human Rights Commission, what we are working on this year, and some of the events that we have planned for in 2018-19. But just to catch you up, the Human Rights Commission was established about 4 years ago. Our mission is to promote the civil and human rights of all people in Wakefield. Our goal is to reinforce positive relationships in the community and to create educational programs to foster a greater understanding and appreciation for diversity. These educational activities help the community become more harmonious, respectful, and cohesive. We work with other groups and agencies in our community to strive to eliminate prejudice and intolerance and promote mutual respect and human rights and accept individual differences. Our commission is currently made up of 4 members who are appointed by the town council, 4 appointed by the school committee. We have a member who is appointed by the town council who comes from the clergy council. We have a police officer who is appointed by the chief. And we also have a high school student who is appointed by the superintendent and 3 ex officios.
Thank you. We, as you can imagine, we're pretty active in many town events. As you might imagine, the Festival by the Lake, Festival Italia, the Wakefield Farmers Market, Wakefield 101, and certainly International Day. It's a great opportunity for us to directly engage with our residents, citizens, and visitors and talk about our mission and the work that we're doing throughout the town. We meet every 3rd Tuesday right here at WCAT. We often have, of course, the meetings are open to the public. We often have a number of guest speakers in the spirit of trying to bring in other groups both within the community and outside the community to help understand issues of importance both to our community and to the broader community. The next one coming up is actually Daniel Levinson, the Associate Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League. As you know, there have been a number of issues in town of concern related to anti-Semitism and racism and discrimination, and so we believe it's important for us to help understand how we can help address those issues both locally and actually understand from other communities what's happening and how we as a community can help better address those issues. In addition to that, we are also part of the Massachusetts Association of Human Rights Commissions, so we participate in their monthly meetings. We share different resources with other groups. You know, obviously we're just one commission, but there's a lot of great work going on by commissions nearby in Melrose, Reading, Lynnfield, and surrounding towns. So they also put on great events, and we make sure to share what's going on in those communities and make sure that our residents are aware of those other events and opportunities as well. We've also been sharing information and resources that the state puts out, in particular, for example, around immigration rights. Obviously, that's been an important issue recently, as well as some of the concerns and kind of scams that have been happening related to immigration rights. So we've been sharing Attorney General information on immigration rights to make sure that people are aware of those types of issues. And I should mention also we've been, and Pina brought one, we've been at cost helping provide Hate Has No Home Here signs to any residents of the town. We've been selling them at cost at many of the events and public appearances that we've had throughout town.
We have a few upcoming events, and some of them are new and some of them we've been having the last few years. The 2 that are coming up in October that add to our monthly meeting address the topic of anti-racism. And one of them is partnering with the BB Library with the book, The Hate You Give. And some of you may have heard of this book or have had to take a picture reading this book because you have. The Hate You Give is a book about a 16-year-old girl and her family who deal with street violence, gang violence. Her uncle is a police detective, and how the family heals and the strength that they all have. The book discussion is being led by our former commissioner, Kevin Dua, and Karen Stern, one of the BB librarians. And that is October 11th. We also are having an event on October 17th It will be the third of our events that's focusing on transgender rights. And this one is called Our Stories Are Live Stories from Transgender People. It's a speaker series with our partners at the UU Church. We also have a large Martin Luther King Day celebration in January and the March 8th International Women's Day panel, which is always a lot of fun. In terms of events that are coming up that are still in formation, we are partnering with the Wakefield Clergy Council on a diverse religion event to celebrate all faiths. We are working with Wakefield Metgo on a screening of the documentary I Am Not a Racist. And in June, we are planning for a Pride Month celebration.
Just a couple of the flyers from both of those events. So as you know, there's been a number of concerning incidents in town, over the past year. One of the things we work closely with Chief Smith is really partnering to help ensure that residents know when those things happen, what they should really do. So I won't read this statement, but it's a joint statement we've come up with the police department. As you can imagine, really the most important thing, and of course social media often takes over in many areas. What we want residents first and foremost to do is contact the police department. Nothing can really, of substance, can take action until the police department is aware of it. I'm sure Chief Smith would reiterate that. I'm sure he's right behind me reiterating it and nodding his head, even if I don't look back. And so really this statement that we're going to be sharing with the community is really about when people see something going on in town that they are concerned of, really the first action that they should take is make the police aware of it. The police are the ones that can take action, follow up on it. If they are not aware of it, they can't really take action on it. Posting just about it on social media alone is not going to take action. And so we, together with the police department, are really encouraging anyone, regardless of where the incident takes place, whenever it is, it's usually happening somewhere out in the public, to really focus on contacting the police department first. They can then address it and investigate it and work with the appropriate local authorities, whether that's a school department, the town, any agency within the town, and including with us. So we're always, of course, willing to partner and help out anytime there's been a concerning issue. There's been a number of issues over time, including anti-Semitic stuff happening at the middle school. We helped connect the middle school with some Holocaust survivors to come and speak at the middle school after that incident. We're willing, of course, we're not a legislative body ourselves. We are not the ones determining what happens with those incidents. That's really for the police to determine. But we can play an important role, one, in helping ensure that those concerning incidents go directly to the police, and also where we can play an educational role in helping different communities understand how they can address those particular issues. So that's just an example of a statement that we've drafted with the Wakefield Police Department.
So last thing we want to raise in our presentation is the yes vote on ballot question number 3. And many of you are probably aware that this upcoming ballot question in November is part of an important question that is coming up and involves many residents in our community as well. In our work in the Human Rights Commission, we had a presentation in March by Freedom Massachusetts, and they came and spoke with us about transgenders and transgender lives and what it is like. We have transgender students in our schools. We have transgender citizens in our community. We talked about what it is, what the impact of the ballot has on them, and what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. Freedom Massachusetts has a yes vote would keep in place the current law which prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity in places of public accommodation. A no vote would repeal provision of public accommodation law. here, you can see, you can sign on as local supporters. You can see that Chief Smith has signed on in support of this. Jason Lewis has. The Melrose Board of Aldermen has, Melrose, as well as the Somerville Council, Cambridge City Council has, the Wakefield Human Rights Commission has signed on. Several statewide supporters are also listed here that you can sign on. Did I mention Paul Broder? I don't know if I mentioned Representative Broder has signed on.
And I'd just add, there was a study that came out just a few weeks ago from UCLA that showed that since those laws have been passed, there have been really no incidents whatsoever. And so we believe it's important to retain those protections for all individuals. And that's why we're in support of the vote for retaining that current law on ballot question 3 this fall. Any questions for us or things you want to know about?
Questions, Tony?
I'll throw out the first one. First of all, thank you for your presentation. It was great. Important point you brought up was about contacting the police department versus social media. I think when you go to social media, it only feeds the fire. And you don't get enough likes on your Facebook page if you go to the police first, but I think it's important to, do that. And again, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Ian?
Thank you as well. I think your work is so important, and especially this time where some of the hate groups are reaching mainstream populations. I actually just signed on to this as a Wakefield Town Councilor, which is really easy to do. I uploaded my headshot and everything because I saw a lot of folks that were on there. Wakefield has embraced and protected people's rights fairly quietly for several years. We have done things. We had we had all gendered bathrooms in the town hall before really anyone was asking for that, and that was Steve Mayo. I think the younger generation now will wonder what we made such a big deal about this, because you go into bars, you go into stores. It's all gendered bathrooms. My school, Suffolk Law School, we've dealt with this. So thank you for that. And I think we have, especially because question 3 is coming up, I think we have transgender students in the schools that need to know that we're supporting them. So thank you for your work and what little we can do.
Thank you.
Yes. Julie?
Can I just ask a question? So the October 16th Anti-Defamation League event, is that open to the public, or is it going to be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's at our regular meeting, and that's an open meeting that will be open to the community.
And where will that take place?
Right here.
Here,
It's
okay.
very warm.
Okay. Can I ask maybe a technical question? So the Human Rights Commission is a town committee. Do we fund it separately, Steve, or how does it get its funds?
They do not have a separate budget. We kind of fund things back and forth. They do some things by fundraisers. Sometimes we find some money for them. But there is no line item for it at this time.
I'd just like to propose it might be something we want to think about in the future, because I really think when you put money behind something, it symbolizes that it's something that we care about as a community. So just like to put that on the table.
Okay. Duly noted. Anyone else, discussion-wise, questions? Great job.
Thank you very
Appreciate you
much.
coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be back.
Don't let them go.
Don't go. So,
That's right.
here's the second part. Should we just have the chief come up?
I think so.
Chief, do you want to just come up and join them? There's a chair for you. Thank you for traveling back today, and you're not in the normal attire that we used to, but this is still the chief, in case anyone on TV is not sure. Handsome in pink, and but no bright blue.
It would have been earlier, but they couldn't get the plane door open. We set it for 20 minutes.
Oh, great. No, you made good time, though, for us, so I appreciate you coming in. Where'd you travel back from? Was that,
I was in Las Vegas with the American Society for Industrial Security and Las Vegas PD talking about school violence and how to address it.
Right. So it
we
wasn't like
did
you were coming back
tabletop
from,
with
you weren't
Las
coming back
Vegas.
from Worcester or anything, it was,
Sorry?
you weren't coming back from Worcester, it was just, quite a distance, appreciate you making it too. So the next part is, if I could lead you in with that, with the recent graffiti that we've had in town, and I thought, since you both are here, it's a timely meeting, just coincidence. And maybe there's a plan that you can help develop while we talk to Chief Smith and get his take on this. And for the town, I don't know if everyone knows, but there was 2 incidents in town where there was graffiti, spray painted, whatever you want to call it, on, one was a road and one was rocks. So if you want to take it from there and see what possibilities we could come up with as a town, and then maybe the plan with you guys spearheading that might be good.
And just to be clear,
Sure.
Peter, it was racist, homophobic graffiti.
Okay.
Not just graffiti. I mean, there's a reason we have the HRC and the police.
Right.
With the, so I think
No, that's
to,
the
to,
fair,
it wasn't
right?
just graffiti.
Right,
It was
wasn't hello.
racist, homophobic.
It wasn't welcome to Wakefield, right? It
Right.
was certainly more than that. Duly noted, that's a good point. So
Mr.
Chief,
Chairman, first of all, I can't say too much because we have an open and active investigation.
okay,
Our detectives are out, as well as our school people are out working the investigation. So with the hope of not compromising that, I can tell you probably what everybody here knows already, but when it was discovered and reported to us, we initiated our standard investigatory procedures. We photographed it. We called DPW. We asked them to remove it after we had taken the evidence from both scenes. And on the first one, where we feel we're very confident that there's a relationship here. What we did was, at 6 o'clock in the morning, we decided it was best that we put out a message to the community, to the human rights, to the school department, and try to pull it together that way. So we brought together our collective wisdom, and we put together that document that was shared with the community. It's just, everybody saw the same document. That's the position we're taking on it. This is hate-based graffiti. So if and when, and I'm confident with the if, we find the person or persons responsible, they'll be held accountable for it. But we also look at it from a teaching perspective and an educational perspective, because we do know historically, whether it's traffic, it doesn't matter what it is, education usually works best. And that's why we put the letter out, because we wanted the community aware of what was going on and what our goal is down the road. If we find that it's somebody who probably would be better off, better served by remediation, whether it's through our diversion program, we'll decide that when we get to that point in the investigation. But I'm proud of what has been done so far. Yeah, we took a couple of hits on social media. I don't read social media because it means nothing to me. And having been in this business for a while and working very closely with Dan Levinson from the ADL, who's a personal friend of mine, this is the way we should be handling it, as an educational component to our community. And again, if we find out that it's somebody who should know better, it'll be handled in a different way. So I really, outside of that, I really can't say a whole lot. I will tell you, I was very fortunate to have a conversation with the Human Rights Commission, some members of the board, of the council, and Mr. Mayo, and we, I think we went in the right direction with this.
okay.
And we'll continue in that direction. It's by no means because it's a week old, it's by no means that
Right.
these things take time.
Right, we're very sensitive to the open investigation. We don't want to spoil that aspect either. Appreciate all you're doing, and your group as well. So in combination, it was just a strange coincidence you're both here tonight, so I thought it was good timing for us to talk some about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you finish it?
Yes.
Okay, Okay, next, memorial benches. Maybe Karen and Bill want to join us at the big table.
I have a lesson this afternoon
Welcome, Karen. Welcome, Bill.
on what to do with a clicker.
A clicker, too. Wow.
So we'll
This is
see.
going to be sophisticated. I know a lot of
If
time
I'm a
went into
fast
this.
learner. This is Bill Connolly, our president. So we're representing Friends of Lake Quannapowitt. And today we'll be talking about an issue that we've been aware about for a number of years, and certainly have talked to some of you here about that, and we've had a lot of discussions with Steve Mayo. But we think it's time that the council looks at this and figures out a way to have a good policy that meets the needs of our parks and is also fair to people who have an urge to donate a memorial. So anyway, to start off, just to say that FOLQ supports the appointment of a town committee to develop a policy on lakeside benches that recognizes the following. The criterion for installing any additional bench should be the long-range integrity of the lake parklands, a decision made apart from any individual requests, and that bench memorials, when authorized, should follow a protocol with clear criterion and that is applied equally to all citizens who have shown an interest. First, a little history. Most of you are aware of some of this, but 20 years ago, this is the way our benches looked around the lake. And clearly, like in that one, you can see one of the slats is gone. The foundations are kind of coming out of the ground. So that was something everybody agreed on, that we should do something about that, upgrade our park benches. Wakefield Center Neighborhood Association took the first initiative, and so they thought about, well, what kind of a design do we want? They came up with this Victorian type design, and I assume you can maybe speak to that after that. They were looking at the gazebo, thinking about kind of the historical nature of that piece of land, and came up with this design, and it's a high-quality cast iron bench. And so they put several around the common and the upper common. But that still left about 50 benches around the lake. And so FOLQ tried to think about how we could meet that need, and it seemed like a really good idea to offer to memorialize these benches that we were renewing. So we did that, and that was in around 2003. And we went to the Board of Selectmen. They liked the idea. So we administered this program of families memorializing benches and paying for the cost of the renewal. And we were actually very surprised by the amount and level of interest that happened. We tried very hard to be meticulous because there was this strong interest, and who gets to have what site. So we kept meticulous records. We had a cutoff date after about 3 weeks, and then we did a lottery. And then all applications coming after that, we timed. So people had choices based on their place on the lottery and then by when their applications came in. So we never had any complaint that things were not fair in the way we proceeded. So we probably about half of them were in place in the first year, and then in 2004 they were actually installed, and then by 2006 all these benches had been replaced. And so it was seen as a big success at that time. The landscapes were enhanced, the town was spared the cost of replacement, and the memorial plaques brought comfort to families. This is a picture of one of the memorials. You can see Phil McCarty there. And he was one of the ones we had we read little memorial statements about each family, or each person memorialized. Okay. But success and completion brought new problems. So the demand for memorials continued. So we finished all the benches. FOQ still gets calls. And so when we got calls, we said, you know, it was a wonderful program, but we've replaced the benches now, and we are not doing anything more. And we would refer to town hall, but we tried to discourage as many, but we couldn't say what the town is going to do. We were only authorized to replace. So those anyway, so the town, when they call the town or talk to different town officials, they also got different responses. So it was confusion, but that demand was still, you know, going on. So, all right, with no policy and high demand, what happens? You get a lot of confusion. So, and then it starts coming out in other ways. So benches started appearing, and some with some authorization, some with different kinds of authorization, some with no authorization. But this is what happens when the town itself doesn't decide what for sure it wants or how it will respond to individual requests. The one in the middle down there is the funniest. A bench appeared in the lake. So that one, someone built a bench in the water. And then, and I haven't showed all, but some of them are actually on town land, but put by commercial, businesses over there in that part of the lake. So, anyway, a policy vacuum on benches will result in long-term risk for the lake environment. If we put in benches for everybody, I would guess on average, we would get maybe 6 to 10 calls a year. Can we donate a bench? And I don't know how much town hall gets, but that desire, continues. And there is a solution to it if we just decide what the town wants to do. So what are some of the risks? For one thing, memorial structures have extreme permanency. So whenever you put them in, it's very hard to move them or remove them. And you need to think about not only what we want, and especially what an individual wants, but what will another generation want. Without a policy, natural sympathy for families tends to overshadow other concerns in placing new permanent benches. And it's very natural. It's very difficult to say no to grieving families in a given instance. Then, the dynamics of the above factors will inevitably lead over time to overcrowding parklines with benches. And so if, like, even one went in a year, you would have an extra 10 benches in another 10 years. Does anybody want to guess how many benches we have right now around the lake? I mean, I was actually surprised when I counted it all up. We have 91 benches.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not a professional, but I've certainly tried to keep an eye out because this issue keeps coming up in my mind. But I do not think right now there is any shortage of places for people to sit. And there's more worry about enough grass for people to do all kinds of other things. So any additional bench needs to be thought through with extreme care. Okay, rogue benches and design chaos will continue. So you can see some of these other benches that have come up, they might be fine for themselves, but it's just a chaotic, design and overview. The lack of a clear policy results in families being treated differently when requesting a memorial bench. So then you get feelings of unfairness, and there can be people that are very aggressive that maybe get a bench, and other families that are trying to accept the fact that no benches are going in right now and do not get a bench. Okay, so, anyway, I'm just kind of reiterating here that we support the appointment of a town committee that represents different elements in the community, comes up with a good policy proposal to you guys, and then that can be followed, you know, in a careful way over time. Oh. Well, anyway, that's it. So, I don't know how to turn this off. Yeah, here. So, do you have any particular questions on this?
I think it was an excellent presentation. There's definitely not a policy from the town, and we definitely need one. And as you said, it's a very emotional issue. Sometimes so emotional, the seven of us saying no to someone who just passed away, we look like you know, people that shouldn't be up here. We have no emotion and we have no feelings, apparently, if we do that. But if we have a policy, it helps us, helps the town. I mean, the repair of the current benches, DPW handles that very well. But going forward, I think we do need to have a policy, absolutely. And we need to have a committee to make it clear how we should handle things. Whether there's any waiting period or there's whatever it happens to be. But questions, thoughts? I mean, Paul?
I'll throw out the first one.
Please.
Thank you for the presentation. It was enlightening. I never knew there was 91, but that's just around the lake. So I'm going to direct my.
And the two commons.
Oh, and the two
That
commons.
includes the two commons.
Okay,
If you-
okay.
I mean,
That
those
would've
are
been-
all,
that would've been
those
my
are the
next
benches
question.
that people would love to have a memorial in, yeah.
Right.
So when my only thought is, where do you develop, when do you put a cap into place, from our perspective?
That's what the committee would decide.
Right, right.
So the first step is we should vote to establish a committee, town committee, that looks at a bench policy, which makes absolute perfect sense.
So that would, again, would be my only concern. And do we initiate a freeze temporarily on anything until the policy is in place?
Currently, there is.
I would say yes.
I think there is.
There's an unofficial one.
Right.
So
I was
we
gonna
make-
say,
we make it
I don't think we
official.
officially
Then maybe
voted
it
on
should be
anything.
official.
Maybe it should
Yeah.
be
But we,
I mean, and it's just thoughts for the time being, and you can make the freeze effective October 1st, just in case there's something in the,
No, I think we can make it effective now.
oh, I don't know, okay. I guess-
Peter?
yes, Ann.
To Steve, if we propose a town committee, should perhaps, in consultation of who's on this committee, yourself, Karen, and the Wakefield Neighborhood Association?
Yeah, but what I was
Decide.
thinking is a member of the FOLQ,
Yep.
a member of the Wakefield Center Neighborhood Association,
Mm-hmm.
a member of the town council, 2 members of the public at large.
Mm-hmm.
That would give us 5, and the committee can be supported by myself, the supervisor of Parks and Grounds, as well as the DPW director or designees.
Sounds like
That'd be
a-
my suggestion on a committee. I think then it gets public involved, it gets
Small enough.
2 events, small enough that meetings will be easier, and I think it takes care of the 2 major groups that really work around the lake,
Good.
I think five's-
in my opinion.
Sure, Tony.
Does that sound agreeable to you two?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Ed?
I think something we need to think about too is how to broaden the way we can memorialize someone. And I know we've had a lot of focus on benches, and that's kind of the go-to. Something that I've kind of been working through and hope to present before this body soon is the idea of trees, for example. And you could either plant a new tree, adopt a tree that's currently standing. There's different brick paving around different parts of the lake too. So there are a lot of other opportunities in which you could have a meaningful impact on the lake that doesn't involve a bench. Maybe there's adding a water fountain somewhere, or just things like that. So I realize that it's not the charge of this policy per se, but I think when you're getting those calls, if we as a body are more creative in terms of ways that we can encourage people to adopt or enhance outside of benches, because we're pretty good that way, but I think we have a lot of other opportunities that would help to beautify the lake and keep with keep in the spirit of what you're looking to do, you know, make sure that the design feels consistent. One thing on the benches, something I've noticed is, if you go around town, we obviously have a hodgepodge, as you point out, and that's, I think uniformity is important there. But also, any of the benches that have the middle supports, hold up, this WCNA that you pointed out in particular has a middle support. It makes a big difference, because if you look at all the benches around town, most of them are dipping in the middle if they don't have the middle support. So in terms of thinking about a policy, one thing I would just offer is, you know, being thoughtful about, yeah, the Victorian look makes sense, the wrought iron makes sense, but also being sure that we have a more durable
Absolutely.
product.
I would see this committee is getting into a lot of those questions and coming up with designs, but also maintenance, you know,
Absolutely.
and the cost
Sure.
of maintenance.
Yep.
So there are a lot of sub-issues, but that's the reason to have a committee, to like really think this through in a thoughtful way and then come back to you guys.
So I make a motion, we approve a town committee to look at a bench policy, townwide bench policy, with one member of FOLQ, one member of WCNA, member of the town council, 2 members of public at large, with liaisons, ex officios, Steve, Rick, whoever else may need to be involved in that.
Second.
Okay, further discussion, or you're all set?
And there's a freeze, an official freeze on,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I had an addendum here, so can we do that together, or do we have to separate it?
together.
Okay,
Sure.
that's, because I think we should officially have a moratorium, because I thought we did, but
Yeah.
Steve and I decided it was unofficial.
official moratorium on
Right.
the granting of any
Agreed.
benches.
Okay.
For the lake and the 2 commons.
Yep,
Right.
for
Like,
the town, I would say.
the town?
That'd be different.
No?
I think the downtown area may
Yeah.
get.
Oh, I'm
different.
sorry, I don't want to get
Yeah.
into downtown.
Yeah, let's just-
Yes, no, just,
Okay,
yeah.
so 2
Well, I don't want
comments.
crazy benches all over, but yes.
Memorial benches would
Memorial
be
benches,
around the
got it,
lake.
around the lake.
Yeah.
Right.
Lake and 2 comments, okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
7-0. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens, anything to add?
Well,
Thank you for your input.
Good.
Thank you for your
Thank you both for
consideration.
Okay,
coming.
thank you very much.
We will advertise for
Thank you so much
those,
for all your
as we
time.
normally.
Right.
And dedication to the lake.
So Karen and Bill,
Really, it's
when,
much appreciated.
when people call you and say, Bill and Karen, so when people call you and say, hey, can we put a bench out? You say, there is an official moratorium, we're forming a committee, and,
So you have a clear line and
Right.
a way to respond.
This is what we've been waiting
You know
for.
what's, you know,
They put a freeze on
bittersweet
us.
about this is that all of this is done with the best of intentions.
Absolutely.
And love for the lake, love for the town, but sometimes you put that all together.
That's right.
right.
One by one, and it can hurt the town.
It's good for us, too. It's good for
Thank
us.
you so much
Yeah,
for
you're very
supporting
welcome.
us.
Thank you for all you're doing for the town. Yes, I have you down. Okay. So next we have, actually technically it's a Roy Moore's request. And Steve, I know you're itching to,
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
can hopefully tell, we talked about benches.
Yeah.
And Roy Moore is a wonderful gentleman who's been very active in town politics for many years. He and his wife Margaret recently passed away, were and are certainly great friends of Lake Quannapowitt, and have done a lot of work to help keep that, you know, the way we'd like it to. There is a tot lot at the head of the lake, very near where the Moores live. And there is a fence around that lot. And Mr. Moore did come to see me, actually with Karen Failer and Jim Scott, to talk about, he would like to place a very tasteful plaque on that tot lot with the inscription, "To Margaret Moore, the joyful sounds of children at play were music to her ears." I did discuss this with Karen Failer at length, and I think she also is part and parcel of the Colonel Conley Park Committee. Because this is not a new structure, this isn't adding anything new, there is already a fence, there's already a tot lot, they certainly have no issue with this request. So, you know, I do think that Mr. Moore has been quite a member of this community for many, many years, and this is a way to memorialize his wife, who was a lovely woman, and I certainly recommend this.
Julie?
It's a beautiful quote, and I'm definitely for it. I just wonder, do we give them any guidelines on kind of what the plaque looks like?
I think we could certainly bring that back, very aesthetic. I'm very
And I'm okay if you're okay, but I just think we
yeah.
should see it before money's invested in it, you know.
Councilor Dombrowski has really sensitized me to how aesthetic these
Okay, well,
things need to be
I'll
over the
let
years.
Councilor Dombrowski.
I just mentioned, because I was thinking of the Greenwood School. for
Exactly,
example,
so was I.
And we
Yeah.
actually came up with a
Yeah.
better design as a result.
Right.
So I think if we could just have a visual.
Yeah, we
that
can
would
bring
be
that back
that'd
in,
be helpful.
absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
I have no problem with that,
Absolutely,
subject to
yeah.
the
Yeah.
visual.
Yeah, we just sign off on the proof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the concept, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's very different from the previous conversation
Right.
we just had. This is an existing structure. The quote is incredibly sweet.
Beautiful.
Is this, they had a lot of kids, the Moores, no? Am I thinking? Different family. I'm thinking of a different family. But I do remember
I think
Roy.
they had 2 children, if I'm
Okay,
not mistaken.
so I remember Roy, how active he was in Lake, Friends of Lake Quantapowhat and his wife. So I think it's a lovely gesture that when people take their kids to the tot lot, will make them smile to see this
Exactly.
saying. So, perfect.
Further discussion?
No.
Okay, so if I can have a motion to have a plaque with Ed's points on and Julie's points on, maybe seeing it first and discussing, you know, the actual.
I think we wait on the vote. I'd like to wait on the vote. I don't want to vote on it before we
So,
see it.
What if we can approve the concept and then we'll just approve the design once that's done? How about that, Steve?
That's fine.
That would keep at least, then at least the more family knows that we're going forward with it, and then it's just.
Yeah, I'd rather vote on it. We've done votes like this 1,000 times where you can vote on the actual concept, but with the
Subject to our
condition,
approval.
subject to our approval, we do it with licenses and all that.
Then we'll see the visual at
Yeah.
a future meeting and
And if
approve
we
that.
don't like it, then it doesn't
Right.
get, you know.
Next
Yeah.
stage.
So maybe just to clarify, just if I could, so are you questioning the plaque going up at all, or just the design, or just the general?
I don't know if we've always done things like that. I don't know if it's the smartest way to do things. So I'd actually, I would love to see a design that we approve. I think it's hard to approve something in theory, and the Greenwood School sign is a great example of when we approved something and it didn't come out so great, right?
So you're worried about backing into it later?
So,
That's
I
why- No,
I think it's a beautiful quote, it's great to do, let's just see what it's actually gonna look like. It's hard to visualize, so we've had this problem before, right? It's hard to visualize things, what they look like, I would love to just see what it looks like before we approve it. I think it's better to, I personally feel like I wanna take votes knowing what it looks like, instead of in theory and kind of assuming that it's gonna work for everyone.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear, I just wanted to
Yeah,
get,
no,
okay, so,
it's a beautiful quote, I think it's a
Right.
great idea, I'd
Okay.
like to see what the product looks like.
okay. Ed,
I think on the flip side of that, I mean, the Greenwood School, I don't think anyone had objection to the Greenwood School having a sign. It was just a question of what the sign looked like exactly, so
Yeah.
I'd hate to see this family go to the trouble of meeting with a designer or something and having it all marked up if they didn't at least have the assurance from the town that's something we're looking to pursue. So I would feel more comfortable letting the Moore family know, we support this, and then it's a matter of a second approval of the actual visual itself, but I think the concept is one that we can approve
Okay.
tonight.
any other comments? Tony, do you have any, or?
That's my motion, I guess, would
Okay.
be to.
Is there a motion on the table?
Yep. Yeah, Ed made it.
Second it. Okay.
Okay, further discussion, anyone else?
So what we're doing is that we're doing what we have on numerous other occasions, that we're approving the request, but subject to our concerns.
Of the approval of the actual plan.
Review,
Yep.
review
Right,
of the design
exactly.
was
So
completed.
before
Right.
it goes in, we will.
Review the design, right.
Nothing will get
We'll see it.
installed
Right,
or
nothing.
put out there until final approval from, that's what I'm
Until we
hearing
see
right
it.
now.
I'm moving this as the approval of granting permission,
Yep.
subject to our approval of the visual, which will receive the
Permission
visual.
to move forward, but not to install.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, I just wanna make sure what I'm voting on here.
Okay, so we have the motion, we have the second. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion? Okay, we have 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7-0. Fabulous. Okay. Steve, nice job. I know, we are on a roll. Okay, so 5D, so corridor study warrant article. I have here that possible discussion and vote for a warrant article to fund corridor study for the refurbishment of the Main Street, Albion Street area. Rick, why don't you have a seat?
Hi, Rick.
You still there?
Ed, did you want
still
to,
there?
Whatever you want.
did you want?
So, as everyone knows, for a long time, there's been a lot of discussion and thought put into how we can have a more unified approach to addressing streetscape improvements and other improvements in not just the downtown, but in a more expanded area. So we've identified previously, looking from the lake to the junction primarily, including Water Street, heading out towards almost by Kippo's, Albion Street as well. And so this is an opportunity for the first step in doing, and I'll let Rick speak to this, but doing a lot of the prelim work that has to be done, out of the surveying and whatnot. That will give us our bearings, so we'll know exactly what is where. This surveying is important for a number of reasons that Rick can go into, so from the town perspective. But it's also important for the design perspective, because any design and thought going forward has to be with an eye towards the practicality of what limitations we may or may not have with certain aspects. And so this is a rather straightforward part of the process. The timing is important because if we can get in, which Rick has confirmed, we can get in this surveying this fall before the ground freeze is over. That means that we should have this phase completed by April 2019, which then enables a lot more work to be, a lot of more concept drawings to be done, a lot more work to be moved forward. So we're seeking to have this presented at town meeting for that purpose. And hope I didn't steal your thunder, Rick, but I'll let you explain the details.
You know, what this will do, I mean, to rebuild everything, and you see that in the comments there if you have that, the construction portion's probably $10 million to rebuild everything. Obviously, you have to have a way to fund that. What this work does, it'll probably be over 2 phases, $1 million in engineering fees and design fees and developing concepts and all the data that's needed. The first phase will get all of the data, provide concepts, and you'll see that there's traffic analysis, there's survey, there's 2 parts of the survey, one which would be a aerial view to capture utilities and what exists now, and then there would be a walking survey to pick up those items in more detail once they're located. It would look at traffic flow, traffic control signals, which a lot of them are outdated and need to be upgraded. It would look at handicap ramps. The code has changed. Those go back to 1986, 87, those handicap ramps. So it's going to look at all of that, and there'd be a big public participation portion of this. So that they would be involved. The Complete Streets Committee would be involved. And the goal is to get this first phase done by April of 2019, so you can go to town meeting in May.
I think what's important in this is that we've talked about what we're going to do in this downtown corridor for a long time. We've had different meetings on it, but we really need to get to the point where we do we know what we have, so we can actually go to the public and say, we can do a bump out here, and this is what it would look like. We can do a center island here. We want to make sure that walking is better, that handicapped accessibility is better, that biking is better. But we have to kind of do this plan work first before we can get this done. And we've had MAPC come in and say, yeah, we think you can do that. We've had students from Northeastern come in and say, yeah, here's some concepts we've come up with. But if we really want to design and refresh the whole streetscape in our downtown, call it downtown corridor right of way, from the lake all the way from Common Street, Church Street, all the way to the junction and down here, we need to have all this in place so we can, and then go out to the public and say, here's what we can do. We have no preconceived what it should be at this point. We don't have the data to have a preconceived notion at this point. So this would allow us to do that, and if this project cost in the whole grand scheme of things, do all the actual work at the end of the day, $11 million, our investment in the design would allow us to go on the Transportation Improvement Program or the TIP program and get those funds to do it. So if we were spending all this design fees, we're going to parlay this 10 times as much at the end. So I think it's an exciting next step that we've kind of talked about for years. We want to do it. So I think it'll be out in front of the town to vote on it. So that's all this is kind of giving, whetting your appetite for the town meeting.
Ed?
I think just adding on to that, when we're talking about this being an investment by the town, I mean, this is an investment with a very strong return because in total, if all of these design, expenses total about $1 million with the tips, we're looking at a $10 million state money. So, it's pennies on the dollar for us in terms of investment. So, our town's investment will yield a significant return. That's the expectation going into this. And not only that, but a number of the things that have to be done that Rick has identified need to be done regardless. So it's not, so while it's kind of a twofer in that way because we get the benefit of being able to plan for the future, but also addressing a lot of infrastructure that needs to be addressed regardless. So it's certainly money well spent if in total, right now the ask is about $331,000, I think, or thereabouts. And in total, it will probably be phased in at close to $1 million. But if the return is an $11 million project, $10 million of which is through state monies, then that seems like a very good investment of town resources.
It's a great investment. The other thing too is that whether you were to say, hey, we don't want state money, we want to do this on our own, you're still going to have to spend $1 million to do the concepts, the traffic analysis, the designs, and all of that work. That still has to be done. So that's not gonna go away. You'd still have that. The state policy is that they do not pay for the design, because they want the towns or the cities to have a hand in that pie. So you don't do a design and then say, walk away from it. We're not gonna do that, so.
Julie, go ahead.
They want you invested.
So I just have a couple of questions. Is this the visioning that has been talked about?
Yeah, this is putting meat on those
colloquially?
bones.
Okay. Because I know that this was brought up during the Complete Streets meetings, and there was a resident who was assured that Spalding Street would be part of this scope, and you just said Church Street. So I think it's important that we include
You can look at Spalding Street as well,
Spalding Street
sure.
in it. So I would ask for that to be
It's
added.
just a block away.
Right, I mean, it really,
Yeah.
and we're talking about connecting the lake to the
Right.
downtown, and I think leaving Spalding Street out, it's
Yeah.
probably small money to include it.
Yeah.
I guess what we were saying, like, I mean, that it was
Yeah.
kind of subsumed in that, but being explicit about it makes sense.
Yeah, I think we
you
should
know?
just be explicit. I don't think anybody, so that's one, because there have been residents there who have been kind of asking me, oh, it didn't get into Complete Streets, you said it was gonna be envisioning, so I just wanna make sure that that is followed through. And just so I understand kind of the investment, so it's phased, I haven't seen any documentation on this, so it's
Yeah.
phased 331 more or less to start, and then up to $1 million? Is that how it works?
It could be, remember, it all depends on how long the full process is gonna take.
Okay,
Okay, so today, in today's dollars, if we were to finish this in a year, it's gonna be approximately $1 million.
okay,
All right, if you drag that on, phase two, it's liable to go up in price.
and do we have a party identified to do the study, or does it go out to bid?
It would be our traffic consultant that would be doing it.
The same ones we
That's
were
what
working
they-
with on
they
the Complete
specialize in,
Streets.
correct.
VHB.
Okay. And I just would want to understand what the public participation is in this.
A lot.
I would think there'll be a lot,
I mean,
but I don't want to assume
There-
anything.
There are a number of public meetings. There are a number, there's a walkthrough that they'll do downtown. And that's just in this phase, that's not the phase two. But I can't remember the number of meetings we've put in. We've added extra meetings to that amount of money for this phase.
So
that-
I guess when I say public participation, is there already a formed committee that oversees it, and then they'll go out for broader public participation? Or how will it be overseen? Is it just overseen by town government?
Generally, that's what happens, yeah. And in this case, it's a little different today, because Complete Streets will play, that committee will play a bigger role in that, because they need to be involved in that according to our policy.
Okay.
But the consultant will be bringing all of those
And I've been
pieces
very
together.
impressed by the consultant, from what I've seen on them on other projects. So I just, and I would just, as we redo our website and we have some communications resources, I think this is a perfect project to, have a lot of information out there at every step, so.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
sorry, I missed you before.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you did.
Sorry.
Steve, can you elaborate a little bit more? Because I feel like one of my first meetings, I went to a lot of those public things, and we had some group present on Albion.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we've
Right.
kind of already done this.
Well,
And I don't want to,
yeah.
and so tell me how this is different. Tell me why we aren't using the conclusions and the recommendations of that report that was less
Well,
than a year and a half ago.
Those will all be made available, but they're not doing the actual engineering work. It'd be great if we did a vision like this, these other groups would come out, right? And they talk to people, what would you like? We'd like to, people said they want to extend the center island. Okay, well, there's a lot of engineering work that's got to be done. How does that work? How does it fit the crown of the road? How does it fit the utilities? What is the actual traffic counts? What does that do to walkability? The actual engineering, they do all that. And unfortunately, it's not for free, like the MAPC comes in. How does it affect walking? They'll do traffic counts. They'll do all of those things that MAPC, and they do a great job, but they're not going to do that part of it. So that's why it's putting the actual meat on the bone, so we can actually go out to the state and say, hey, we have a plan now. We can get on your list to get money. Because we can't unless we have that plan. And when I say they go through every aspect of the plan, it's kind of akin to the rail to trails. We have to go out and have engineering do all that thing and look at every contour in the plan to go and get the next step in the money. So it's kind of that same engineering phase.
One other thing too is a visioning plan,
Yeah.
and Steve kind of hit on it, but it will show you a pretty picture and that this, oh, it'd look nice to have this here. Does it actually fit there? Can it actually go there?
Does it actually work?
That's unknown.
So
Okay?
this corridor
This
study
is
will
more
figure that
of,
out.
it's a more detailed study of the existing infrastructure and actual design of what can fit there. So at the end of the day, it's gonna meet state regulations, because it will have to, with state funding. And even if it didn't, there are a lot of regulations it would have to meet. If it's federal money that comes forward, it will meet federal requirements. It will meet MUTCD requirements, which is the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So there are a lot of pieces that this will look at. So you end up doing traffic counts as part of this to see how much traffic goes through, where they take right turns, left turns. All that analysis, the state at the end of the day is gonna ask for. So it's much more detailed.
We're also
Okay.
asking for this group to do 3D simulations.
Yeah.
So
Great.
people can actually see that when they come to the public meetings. Do you like this? Here's what they did in Boxborough. Well, maybe we don't like that over there. Well, here's what they're gonna do, and, so it gives the community a real feeling to see this and what they do.
So then so I'm just gonna echo what Julie said earlier too, is that now we have a new communications person, website, and to
July 1,
have.
can't wait.
So to start all of
Yep.
this, because I feel like I've heard about this visioning
Yep.
thing. I went to all those meetings about the corridor before. I'd love to see all, because there were some good ideas there. We all made handprints
Right,
at the
yeah.
Galvin Middle School, and I don't want any of that past information lost, and I also just want it publicly there. So if it is, because that wasn't what we actually, that wasn't my understanding about complete streets, that they would go on to this next phase. So that's the group that we have, but I think there's a lot of public participation as the meetings we went to, a lot of members of the public went. And so I want this like easily available, and the past reports also easily available.
Absolutely.
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is great that we're moving forward finally on something to potentially alter the downtown area from the junction all the ways to the lake. I mean, we had that big presentation by Mr. Favorman and VHB. They came in and they gave us a concept of what the changes would entail. Is what being presented right now, is this just the DPW structure, or has VHB been part of your discussion going into this?
Oh,
point?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
They,
So I'm
They'll
going to
provide us
request
with
through the chair that I be
what the
involved
dollars
in
are.
in the future ones, because I've been asking now for 6 months when we're going to hear from VHB. So if VHB discussion's going on with the DPW in the town, Mr. Chair, I'd like to be back on there, because I was started on there, I'd like to be put back on there. Okay, because I've been asking for it now for almost 6 months, when we hear from VHB. And I'm finding out now tonight, VHB is already, well, I want to be in on the future meetings like I thought I was going to be, Mr. Chair.
I think
So-
that
sounds fair.
misinterpretation is that the discussions that are going on now are related to getting cost and a contract together.
Absolutely.
There's been
And
no
I fully understand it.
discussions on the
But I've been into this now
project.
for 4 years, and I'd like to stay into it, because when Steve made the initial presentation of those cardboards showing what the,
Yeah.
you know, I was with them doing that, so I want to stay involved into it. I am fully in support of everything, okay? I'm not looking to take the lead, but I really want to be involved into it, okay? So through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to be put back into the loop on this, if possible.
Into the loop. I have you in loop here.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you, Paul. Anything on the right side here?
We'll all be looped in.
We're all gonna be looped in. And excellent
I'll
point.
be looped in.
Fabulous point. Sherry, you got that right.
Thank
We're
you.
looped in.
You got the loops going?
Ed,
Excellent, Sherry.
I think it's just important so everyone understands that this particular ask at town meeting is really related to the mechanics. I mean, it's
Right.
the engineering piece of it, it's the surveying, it's just kind of getting literally a lay of the land, so that then the visioning, you know, I call it, it's a part of the visioning, but it's more like the grunt work that kind of gets us to that point. The visioning, I know I spoke with Rick previously about this, the idea of many public meetings, to be having the public input on that. There's no preconceived notion in terms of how things should look. The only preconceived notion is there are improvements that can be made. Let's try to figure out what the best, you know,
And what's
improvements are
gonna
to
work.
be made. And what's going to work, you know, because we can have a lot of drawings, but if a bump out can't be because of traffic patterns or safety or bikes or whatever the case is, it's of no consequence. So this at least gives us the opportunity to make sure that we know what we're working with, so then we can work within realistic design parameters. And absolutely what you're saying, Irene, anything with Albion in particular, but any of that work that's been done, that's an add-on or enhancement to what we're talking about here. You know, how much of the Albion corridor can we implement based upon whatever limitations we have with the engineering? So that's really what this is about at this point.
excellent. I think that we have enough good discussion here. I think that we need to get a motion to move this forward. Ed, so moved?
Second.
Second. All in favor of moving the corridor study warrant article?
Aye.
Aye, so we have 7-0? Okay, we can't do anything tonight without 7-0.
Yeah,
That's
and
good.
it's just going to
Oh,
warrant.
you just jinxed it.
Nah, I didn't. Rick, thank you very much, Rick.
It's just going
Thanks,
to
Rick.
ballot. We're not approving any funds.
Was on the warrant.
Thanks, Rick. Okay,
We
you too.
lost focus of that.
Okay, now we're in 5E, 10th Annual Holiday Stroll. Now I'm starting to feel old.
All right, this should take 2
Yes,
seconds.
Is this guy, is he the pizza guy?
Yes.
Get him out of here. The
Yeah.
schoolhouse pizza.
You can.
Yeah, can we
that's
make a
what-
request?
Yes, we probably should.
Let's bump them.
Yeah,
Oh, where is he down? Okay, you know what, Peter, you know what, we love you up here, but we might want to move one thing forward, if you can bear with us 1 second. We asked you to.
this is a quick one.
Right, no, Tony, excellent point from the vice chair. He, what letter is that on?
6A and B.
Oh, 6A and B. Okay. Okay, so if we can just move this forward and we'll come back, so Peter, don't leave. So, if we could go over the 6A and B, so the common victular, easy for me to say. Victular license. Okay, let's all say that again.
It's a
Victular.
terrible word.
Okay, so pronunciation classes
I
afterwards.
hooked on phonics.
Hooked on phonics, right. So,
Great program.
6A, let's, possible discussion and vote to approve a new 2018 common license application from September 27, 2018 through December 31st, 2018 for Schoolhouse Pizza at 927 Main Street. Should we have them come up, or just?
They'd like to.
You don't have to, right?
If you
If you want to, yeah. You waited long enough. Thank you very much.
Involved three
Thank
people.
God Tony saw you sitting there.
All right.
Any discussion? Well, we have the owner here. Paul?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Sure.
Just to open it up for someone to second for discussion.
Second.
Yes, Tony.
I've lived in Greenwood for almost 20 years, actually, before I moved back to Greenwood, so I probably lived in Greenwood a lot longer. I know the location is, I've been there before. The only recommendation I'm gonna make to you is that if you make arrangements to park somewhere else, talk to the church across the street, just to kind of open up that street for your customers, because I really want to see you be successful in that location. Parking is a very tight issue in Greenwood, especially in the Four Corner area. So if you have workers, make sure they park somewhere off the street.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank God we saved those 4 spots.
further discussion, that's right, we saved 4 spots. Paul, you look like you want to say something.
I'm not saying a word, I'm fully in favor.
I'll just add to Tony's point. Paul and I were at a program today, and there's no question that businesses that park in front of their own business hurt their own business. I mean, and that's statewide. It's been found time and time again. So it's not helping you as a business person if you have your own employees parking in front.
Okay.
It's just been shown time and time again.
That's correct.
So I try to park sides or side
I think you're going to
streets.
find it's going to help your business by doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, we have parking limits in effect too, so it just makes more sense.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
7-0,
excellent.
okay?
Good
See, it
luck.
didn't jinx it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
We've got-
waiting,
we've
sorry
got,
about that.
Good luck.
The entertainment license too.
He needs the entertainment.
Oh, okay, let's do that too. Possible discussion and vote to approve the 2018 entertainment application for September 27, 2018 through December 31st, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
What's the entertainment?
TV?
TV.
Do you have TV falls under entertainment?
Yes,
Yes.
TV,
Oh, wow.
radio, yes.
Oh, radio,
Yes.
thank God we can get that in there.
I
Okay,
thought you had a arcade machine. I didn't
No,
know.
no.
So we should
Okay.
just add that to this form?
It's there.
It's the
It
second
is?
form.
Yep.
Oh, is there a second form? Okay.
No, it's right on the same form.
Is it on the same form?
It says entertainment, it doesn't say.
On my
what
form.
Number of devices.
Yes,
It doesn't.
he's in.
But it says list the devices for which the license is being.
So it's just a mistake, so it's a
No, no,
television.
yeah, not a big deal at all.
Perfect.
okay,
Thank
all in favor, what did we say?
Aye.
Aye. So that's 7-0 again.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can say I did.
Who's supposed to second?
Ian and Tony.
Yeah.
Ann and
Yep.
Tony.
Ann and Tony,
That's
sorry,
right.
yeah.
So we have
Wasn't he already down
a new owner.
there? Schoolhouse, wasn't Schoolhouse already
It's
down?
already down there.
He's already down there,
Yeah,
thank
but
you.
he's, I think.
It's a new
he's
owner.
taking
He's
it- taking the
extending-
same name.
Right, okay.
Okay,
Now you can have.
okay.
Yes, all of it.
Peter, can you come back and join us? Sorry about
Thank
throwing you out.
you.
But, okay, so this is, we're on the 10th Annual Holiday Stroll. Possible discussion and vote to approve the request from the Wakefield Community Partnership, WCP, I guess, to conduct the holiday stroll on Saturday, December 1st, 2018, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Street closing to occur at 1 p.m. and to use the right-of-way within the shutdown area. So, we have a, do a motion, okay, second, okay, and discussion.
John, it's a success.
Yeah, I think it's great, okay, do,
I just wanted to add that, thank you very much this evening for allowing me to come before you folks. And to give you a little bit of background of what's going on, the Festival Italia and Holiday Stroll used to be under the auspices of the Event Planning Committee. We have since transitioned from the Event Planning Committee to a new nonprofit that's being, has been formed, and it's called the Wakefield Community Partnership. Right now, we are in talks with the Attorney General's office to secure 501c3 status and be able to promote Wakefield events, activities versus, something just on a small scale. We want to open it up eventually to a larger audience, do different events, activities, and things like that within the town, so that we can have the holiday stroll, we can have Festival Italia, and we can do other fun things, that don't necessarily have, to be called a certain event. That could just be like a pop-up event, like a photo bomb kind of a situation. We'll show up, everybody has fun, and it's a good time for everybody.
Excellent. So, you know what, thinking here, we, number 2 is the possible discussion and vote to approve the request for the Wakefield Community Partnership to close Main Street to vehicular traffic from Yale Avenue to Richardson Avenue, leaving Richardson Avenue open for right turn only, southbound travel, closing of the Lincoln Street parking lot on Smith Street so the access to the lot can be secured for WCP use, closing of Albion Street to vehicular traffic from Main Street to North Ave. I wanted to take all these 3 in one vote. I mean, and then 3rd, possible discussion and vote to approve the request from the Wakefield Community Partnership to utilize the area surrounding the Civic Center and part of the Armory Street at the commencement of the parade and Lincoln Street parking lot for stroll activities, if needed. There will be a rolling shutdown from the Civic Center to Lincoln Street starting at 2:55 p.m. And again, this is the 10th year this has happened, or will be the 10th year it's happened. So I think everything's worked well that I'm aware of in the past. I think it's a successful holiday stroll, weather permitting, obviously rain or snow or sunshine, but except for the vendors and occasional DJ, they have it no matter what. So questions on all 3 or discussion on all 3?
Should we also just add Peter 6A1, the one-day liquor license? It's the same as that.
Yes, and including 6A1, possible discussion and vote to approve the request for Wakefield Community Partnership for one-day liquor license on December 1st, 2018 from 3 to 7 p.m. License will be good from November 26th, 2018 until December 5th. I think that's for the purchase and return. Yes,
There you go.
whoever. Julie.
I guess I'm just confused why you need a 5-day liquor license. You're only serving 1 day.
It's purchase.
States in there to return the.
Oh, it's a state law?
Purchase and
No, it
return.
states in there to return the
I know,
unused product.
yeah, but I mean, we all buy liquor, but we only serve it 1
No, but
day?
they have to hold it, so the
Oh, they have
pickup
to
of the
hold it, so the
liquor.
holding
Yeah.
requires the
Holding and
license.
returning.
Requires it, yep.
And that's
and
like
the
the same
returning.
way with
We've had this.
festivals.
Okay,
It's a great
I'm new
question.
to this.
No, it's
Yeah.
a great question, Julie, but yeah, it's the holding of it.
And so, I mean, this seems like we have the letter, but shouldn't there be like a the liquor license application filled out? And we don't actually have a liquor license application then on file, which is just a technical and it can be done later, but I just think we should keep the same forms that we do for everything else. I didn't see it in here.
We can do that. We've
Yeah,
never done one,
that's
but that's
fine.
fine.
That's
We'll
fine.
have them fill one out, yep.
Makes sense.
So I'll move that we approve all 4 of those items on the condition that a liquor license application is
filled out.
submitted as a part of that.
Sounds good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0. Okay. Peter, great job, very emotional. We're all kind of worn out now, but thank you for coming in.
No, thank you
for
so much.
waiting.
Thank you very much, and you all have a great evening.
Yeah, thanks for
Absolutely,
waiting
you too,
the
I think Schoolhouse Pizza took more time.
2.5 hours, right? Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, so, we at the pool table?
No.
Hartshorn.
Hartshorn House.
6-2.
6A2.
Oh, 6A2, right, okay. So, possible discussion and vote to approve the request for Colonel James Hawthorne Association for a one-day liquor license on November 10th, 2018, from 4 to 9 p.m. at the Hartshorn House for fundraiser.
And the fee was asked to be waived.
Oh, excellent, okay.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none? Oh,
Oh,
hearing
just a
one.
quick background. This is going to be for an Oktoberfest type event held in November, but it's going to be, you know, beer and wine tasting.
November.
So the public knows what we're voting on.
Okay,
Excellent.
good point. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none? 7-0. Okay, now we're at the pool table, correct?
No, Sweet Bay,
Sweet Bay.
Sweet Bay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sweet Bay, jeez.
entertainment.
Yeah, Sweet Bay is celebrating their 3rd year,
Yes.
roughly their 3rd season here. They run a wonderful business. They're really an anchor of our bar downtown. And they'd like to have a acoustical group out there for Saturday and Sunday and put up a tent and have a little bit of liveliness in there. It may be 1 piece, it may be 2 piece, it may be 3 piece. They haven't kind of figured that out yet. But it should be a great day. The only thing that we did talk to them about is that they cannot leave that tent up overnight for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
They do need to make sure that they secure it down and what have you. So they'll have to put that up and take it down, and that they do have to make sure that there is always a handicapped
Yep.
path through that. And they are both, I met with both Beth and Liz out there, and they are certainly amenable to that, and they're fine, so. Should be a fun event.
Paul?
I'll move that we approve the request from Sweet Bay to have the, for the entertainment application for September 29th and September, that can't be right.
30th.
30th, thank you.
Right.
Second.
Typo.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
10-0.
Okay. Now we're at the pool table license. Possible discussion and vote to approve a renewal pool table application from September 27, 2018 through April 30th, 2019 for Lakeside Inn at 595 North Avenue.
So move to discussion?
So motion, second?
Discussion.
Discussion.
The last time Chief Smith was in, he said that he gets no issues from this side of the house. That his issues all, and I remember he said that because my
Oh.
first thought was the pool table that we didn't approve of.
Right.
Chief Smith said all of the issues come from the housing, that this is not an issue. So I would hate to, I don't know that I want to, I'm going to vote that we approve it because of what Chief Smith said, and they are a business in our town, and I don't know.
Okay. Tony?
I would vote that we table this. I would like to see maybe the owner or the manager come in and just explain to us, or maybe talk to us for a little bit, so I'd make it subject to that. And then I would be, agreeable to maybe approving this.
Are these people different than the ones that run the?
Nigel's still on, right?
I believe it's still the same family.
Same family. Okay.
Yes.
I have no problem with that, Tony.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to recall the same discussion that we had with the chief. The incidences were outside, not from within, and it was typically the people who ran the establishment that notified the police that there was something going on.
Yes.
So it wasn't issues from within the establishment, it was external. That's how I heard the chief explain it.
He did say that. He said that the people, they got the calls from the business owners or the workers or the employers when there was an issue.
So, again, I don't see, I've never heard the chief come in and say there was a fight within the building,
No.
in the lounge or the pool area. I've never heard him say that, okay? I never heard of any incidents within the building, so I too would be inclined on a simple request such as this to approve. So, I mean, that's my position.
Stuart, we didn't grab the chief while he was here. I didn't realize it was coming up.
But I know he said that because
Ed,
And I remember it too.
thank you. Thanks, Paul.
The chief also said there were over 100 calls to Lakeside Inn. I mean, the applicant here is Lakeside Inn, so whether it's, one portion of the facility or another, it's still the same entity. So I think it's very bad messaging we're sending. The chief said that the number of calls to that location was off the charts compared to other places that he's gone to. So whether it's due to the rooms or what's happening in the bar area, I don't know, but I don't know that it matters because it's the same management, it's the same entity asking for something. So I don't think that we should be rewarding that. I think, especially when we have an issue, to Tony's point, let's bring them in, let's understand, let's have the firm number from the chief of exactly how many calls there were, because that's a lot of calls. And I don't think it's appropriate to separate them, because there's ultimately one and the same.
And to rebut what you're saying right now, I have no problem if that's the way that the council wants to go, but those calls the chief did say was the entire neighborhood, not just the facility.
Well, he was talking primarily about that, primarily Lakeside Inn. I mean, he was talking geographically. It was really Lakeside Inn, that property, primarily.
Which is
It was,
huge.
but it wasn't the offices he was talking about. The offices weren't the issue. He was talking about, it was mostly people within the hotel rooms. And I'm saying, it's one and the same. It's the same owner, it's the same, property.
have we invited them?
I think, well,
We vote.
Julie,
think we
go ahead.
should.
I was just gonna, I mean, that's,
Okay.
this is dated 7/20, we dealt with this 2 meetings ago. I mean, I assume they are not able to use their pool tables right now, because we haven't,
Well, they shouldn't be.
right, so because we haven't
Has
approved this,
anyone
I mean, I just feel like
been enforcing
we,
that?
we should invite
should bring
them
them
to
in.
discuss this and not put it off.
Sure.
So I mean, it would have been nice, anyway, I just think there's a long time and we owe them the respect to have them.
Can we set that up, see for the next meeting?
We can invite them in, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Maureen, any thoughts down there?
I heard the chief say that it was the area, like Paul said.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think you're inferring it was not the office parks or not people, off behind the lake, and that's an easy, we don't know. So I think it's the pool tables, we approved the pool tables, he said that's not what the calls are coming in about, but
Okay. Oh,
I do think we should bring them. They're a big business in town, and they haven't
Right.
been in front of us in the last
Tony.
couple of years.
It's an excellent leverage point to bring them in. It is arguably one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in Wakefield.
Agreed.
And I think there's a lot that can be done there. And maybe we could look at, whatever long-term plans for the site. Maybe we can just bring them in there and pick his brain, because it is an underused or undervalued piece of property within the town.
I just think we need them to be a good neighbor, is what it comes down to, and right now, I don't think that they're being a good neighbor, and if we can get, more refined stats from the chief for next meeting as well, I think that'd be helpful, so we have an informed, discussion about it, but, I do think that, in fairness to them, let's have them here, and let's
Sure.
Yeah.
express our
I mean,
concerns.
we have a 7-0, I think, without any votes or anything. I think we need to, probably need to vote anyway, but I think we need to bring them in. I mean, this came up a couple months ago. I remember Tony discussing, I remember the 100 number coming out. And again, maybe we can get some more information from the chief too, just to pin it down. Maybe it doesn't matter, but maybe we just.
I can ask the fire department as
Sure.
well, what their calls were like.
Sure, so maybe get some background information. I don't know if we need
And
the chief.
I do have stats
but-
from the chief on that as the
Okay.
police
Liaison.
liaison. I don't wanna pull it out now, but
Sure.
it was, and he mentioned last meeting too, he said it was staggeringly
Substantial.
higher
Do we
than
need the
the
chief
others.
here, or do we just need to have some
I
information?
think we have the
from
information already
chief?
from the chief.
I think we're fine without the chief.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine, I don't wanna bother them if we don't need to. Okay, as long as everyone's agreeing. Okay, so, I don't think we.
We'd probably like a motion to table,
Okay, so,
if that's where the.
So I'll move to
Motion.
table pending having the owner here.
okay,
Second.
second.
Okay.
And we have to vote on that. All in favor for tabling, no pun intended again.
Tabling the pool table.
Pool table. 7-0, and anyone opposed? 7-0, okay. I think that's the best way to do it after all this time. Okay, licensing fees, possible discussion and vote regarding amending current licensing fees for liquor licenses, common victualler licenses, entertainment licenses, we have to change that word too. Auto amusement licenses, class 1, class 2 licenses, every license, livery licenses, fortune teller licenses, bowling alley licenses, pool table licenses, secondhand dealer licenses, lodging house licenses, and peddler licenses. Do you have a motion for that?
Well, what I'd like to do is, I kind of mentioned it at the last meeting, and I think in your packet you have my recommendation and a
Right.
copy of the licensing fees that are, in our towns around us. I do think that licenses in Wakefield are very valuable because of all the things that we're doing here, including making the streetscapes better and what have you. So I would say, and you can either take these one at a time or as a package, and that's fine, but I would say that one of the things we also talked about that some communities have that we don't is an application fee. And I would like to have a $100 application fee for all licenses with the exception of one-day liquor licenses. And the reason being is that when someone comes in for a common victular license, that we just granted one here, it goes around to a number of departments that have to actually take time to look at it to make sure that there aren't those issues. And I think that that's something that a lot of other communities are charging, and I think that that's a function here that we should do as well. Increase of all alcohol from 3,000 to 4,500. I think that if a number of our communities like Andover and I think Saugus charges a little bit more. I like that.
Ask on that one, Steve.
Yes.
So that one is the one that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit, because we're not Andover.
We're better.
Andover's downtown.
We do have gas that goes.
We
to
do
all
have
our
gas that
buildings.
works, and our restaurants are not closed.
Wow.
Some of their restaurants are closed. But as a community is a different, it is at a higher stratosphere financially than we are, both businesses, I think, in just the town itself. That jump made me pause, because it seemed to be going to a community that I wouldn't necessarily, Wakefield's great, but we have a little ways to go. If our downtown looks like Andover at one point, we've hit the jackpot. So that number just made me pause a little bit.
Purely my recommendation.
Yeah. And just based on what the other towns were. I don't know if anyone else feels that way.
It is, I agree with Ian.
It just seemed a little
steep.
weighty
Yeah, yeah.
as a jump. We want to be business friendly as well, so.
And that's the only one that you're thinking about.
That's the only
really
one that
jumped.
concerned me,
Yeah.
that jump,
Yeah.
based on the other towns. Saugus seemed to be an outlier to me.
Well, Saugus has got Route 1.
Saugus has your one, yeah.
I also just want to have a conversation about the one-day application fee. I think it's good to have the exception for the one-day liquor license. I look at Sweet Bay, so $50 entertainment, and you're gonna charge her $100. So I think actually it should be,
Great point.
I think for the higher ones, it makes sense, $100 application fee. I think for the couple $100 bucks, you're really doing 100% as an application fee. So I would think about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Paul?
I'm going to tend to agree on the all alcohol too. I mean, maybe we can put a number of 3,800 in there to be comparable to the jump that we put in place for the beer and wine. We went up 600 in there, so all alcohol is worth a little bit more, so put it into that respect. I'll probably shoot myself in the foot. I think you probably could go up with the package store fee to a higher rate than 2,500. You could probably put that up to, but then you become too close to the beer and wine. I mean, so really put the fluctuation. But I wouldn't be opposed to lowering the all alcohol down to a lesser value, but that would be determined on the council to make that determination, based on Steve's recommendation. Peter, Connor.
Julie?
Just a couple of things, like, I know sometimes we waive things, sometimes we don't waive these fees. I would just like to see consistency. I mean, if nonprofits aren't going to pay, then we should say that outright, that they're not going to pay, and not just, sometimes we waive, sometimes we don't. So I don't have any problems with the fees here, other than I do think that an excessive application fee on a $50 or $25 is too much. But I would really, I worry a lot when we have no policy that's published around what we waive and what we don't waive.
I think for the way I've handled it is if they've asked for a waiver, and if they've been a nonprofit, I've been fine waiving it. I think there's different nonprofits.
Fine, but my problem is some people know to ask and some people don't. And if you're in the know, you know to ask, and if you're not in the know, you don't know to ask. And I just think, again, transparency, it would be.
Yeah, I think it's, I think it's fairly transparent.
Tony,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, I think in the 2.5 years I've been here, I don't think we've ever charged a nonprofit a one-day liquor license.
Yeah,
Then we
have.
should make that,
You just did last week, last meeting. You
Yeah.
charged Main Street the $50 fee because it came down. And then in all due respect, I didn't hear a waiver of the fee for the holiday stroll liquor license. So
Because no one asked for it.
No.
That's how I.
You
do
also
it.
didn't fill out the form.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no form for us to have a discussion.
Right, and this is why-
But I do think we could do a rule that nonprofits, I
I'm
mean, if
fine
you
with
qualify
that.
as a nonprofit, we don't judge whether you're good or bad. You
Right.
you maybe waive the fee. I think it's something to have a policy instead of us.
Or if you're bad, you don't get one.
Yeah, no.
And there's no question, and there's no questions at all.
Can I make one point on the
Yeah,
nonprofits
sure.
is
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
have a lot of nonprofits that come in
For the lake.
and use the lake.
Yeah.
And you could have a very large nonprofit
That's
that
my
has
point.
people on staff making a lot of money that do an event.
Right.
And at the Civic Center, we'd love them to do an event at the Civic Center. To waive a one-day liquor license for them is very different to me than the Hartshorn House. So
I agree.
I understand that you want to have consistency, and maybe it's a Wakefield-based nonprofit, which is a
Yeah,
little bit
I'm
different
fine with that. I'm happy to
than
come up
that.
with
So I just
some
think all
ideas.
nonprofits may be an issue.
Yeah.
So even
I
just
agree.
cleaning up the cost of,
Yeah.
Okay.
We could
And
do
just my
Wakefield
suggestion.
nonprofits.
Yeah, local Wakefield-based nonprofits.
And to go one step further, seeing that in the past, for organizations such as, say, Main Street, and I'm not sure, does the filling out of the applications, was that always for everyone else? Or is it just that, so we should have that in place, that even the nonprofit's not a verbal thing like it has been?
Right.
The form has to be filled out as well, too.
And maybe there's a
Most of
nonprofit
them.
form that people say, where are you incorporated? And
Right, but for several years, a couple of groups, it's been an oversight on this part because it was never asked for, and it was just a given. Because like, I'll give you an example, when the Civic Center was on the operation on their own, the request just came in for a one-day liquor license to be had, okay? And then there was author given, but it wasn't any form that they're doing now as being an entity of the town. So I think that we probably should go that route and make that all-encompassing, that we just ask for the form to be filled out and just take it from there. Does that include churches too?
if they need a liquor
Yeah,
license.
a Wakefield nonprofit, if they're a Wakefield nonprofit. yeah.
Churches usually are, even though they don't,
Yeah.
they don't have to apply for the IRS, they're presumed nonprofit.
I've never had one
under
ask for it, I
federal
don't
law.
think. I know maybe
Yeah, we
a couple
did.
have. in the-
Yeah.
So are we requiring now too, just for those that were on the discussion of this, are we requiring political events to be issued an alcohol license even though they're not selling it?
They have to be, don't they?
No.
Not if they're not selling it. I think
No,
it's a
that's
different
what I'm-
discussion.
Just for sale.
Just for sale, but I think right
Oh,
now,
no,
the
we
Civic
had-
Center makes them,
Yeah, we had to do it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do that
that-
because that's our building.
Yeah, I
that's
had
the
to do it.
building,
Yeah.
right, so
Yeah.
if it's not the building though, if it's somewhere else, we technically don't, if they're looking for a one-day, do they need to ask for the one-day liquor license? If they're giving it away and it's not in a town property?
No. Not if they're giving it away.
Okay.
So I just think we need to get these things somewhere so that people can reference it. I mean, when I did my event, I had no idea I needed a liquor license. Sherry called me and said, can you come pay your $50? I mean, I just didn't know, and I didn't know where to look, so, yeah, I just think we need.
And that was only because you did it inside a town property?
Exactly, which is fine, I just didn't know. And I would just say kind of similarly, just for the events, I think we should have a form for events that people have to fill out that, you know, are you gonna need a liquor license, and
At the Civic Center mandates you have a form. You know,
Right,
It'll
right.
talk about having a liquor license and, you know,
That's
the number
correct.
of
Yeah.
people and all that. Steve, quick question, if we approved or disapproved, if we approved these, when would these fees become effective?
If you approve them, we could have them effective
January
December
1.
1st.
January 1st.
Okay, so let's,
But we are sending out the renewal
Yeah.
notices now.
okay,
So that's
Sherry
why.
needs to know.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only because I
Right.
would like to
Right.
tweak that liquor license, that, the all-day
Oh.
alcohol.
Right, what I've heard from the board is that reduce the all alcohol from 3,000 to 3,800, that was the number that was thrown out. A waiver of the fee for Wakefield-based nonprofits.
Yep.
On any one-day license, whether it be, or any, there's a two-day license there on the entertainment. On any special event license, which would be 1 day or 2 days, that we do not charge the administrative fee. Is that what you were
Yeah.
thinking of, Maureen?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
On any special event license, that there not be administrative fee. Thinking of a one-day entertainment, a one-day liquor.
I think she went with the dollar sign amount, wasn't
So
it?
I think we do dollar amount, right? So I'm a little confused because I'm looking at this. So if there's a walk at the lake and they put up a tent, they're paying $50 for that tent
Yes, per tent,
per tent.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if it's under $100, we shouldn't charge them a $100 application fee.
Okay.
Is there a way to word
Yeah.
that about?
No administrative fee on licenses of $100 or less. Is that what you're saying?
Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
that's fine.
Because if they're coming in, and we're asking them to pay 50, but they have to pay 100 just for the
Yeah.
administration fee,
Yes.
that's a little
That makes sense.
overpowering, or overbearing, I should say.
Yeah.
I agree.
That means that you won't charge any on any common vic, and that's okay.
That's fine.
That's just so you know.
Okay, so in the all alcohol, Steve, was that, you said 3,800?
3,800 was what's going up, yeah.
Okay, and what about the beer and wine then, what's that?
Stay in the bank.
3,000, I didn't ask, no one mentioned that one.
Okay, all right, the rest of
Yeah,
them
it's fine.
Package stores from 2,000 to 2,500,
Okay.
club from 500 to 1,000, one-day liquor licenses from 50 to 100, class 2 license from 100 to 200, which is the statutory maximum on class 2 licenses.
It says here you're happy to discuss, that's
I'm
good.
happy to discuss, always.
Yes.
Which we have them.
Ed,
I recognize that we're on the lower end of these, Stephen, I appreciate all that, the data on that. I think that at a time when we're trying to, though, foster a more welcoming business community, I think this is not the time to, I don't think we should make it more expensive to do business here in Wakefield. I think that ultimately, it's comparatively small money, and I'd rather keep things as they are, even if we're on the lower end for now, because I think that we're at a point now where we're really trying to establish ourselves as more business friendly, and I think this is contrary to that objective. So I'm voting against it for that reason.
any other comments?
You don't have a motion yet either.
Right.
Just so you know.
No, just, no, any other comments just in regards to discussion, just. Okay, so,
Julie has her
quick-
hand up. So just so I
Julie.
understand, so this would, if we did pass it, it would, basically businesses would get very little warning because they were getting their
Right.
bills in the next couple of weeks to pay. I mean, is it something we could institute starting in, I don't know, a year from now? Or is that too far out, just reconsider at that point?
You could make it effective 2,000, and if you wish, the board can do whatever they want.
I'm
Council
just
can
thinking
do whatever they want,
businesses, I mean, at least, I mean, a lot of businesses are already in budget period right now.
Tony,
Yeah, I don't think the increases we're asking here are staggering. This just brings us into line with the communities around us. If these increases aren't gonna cripple any business or stop any business from moving into town, they're not gonna look at, you know, I can get a reduced liquor license in Saugus or, you know, Tewksbury, so I'm gonna move there. They move to Wakefield because they wanna move to Wakefield, not because our fees are lower.
The only ones that I could see on this, in my eyes, will be the clubs going from 5 to 1,000. I mean, especially when they're not even, they probably have no knowledge that this is even coming down the pipe right now. So you have 5 clubs in the town right now that their liquor licenses effective January 1st would be going up $500. So, I mean, that's what I'm seeing by this occurring, and there's been no input. I'm gonna really play the devil's advocate. We've been taking it on the chin, where as far as, you know, being out there and being transparent and making people aware of what we're doing. And I don't like to delay things that all the time that we could make occur quickly. But I just don't want social media to have run amok and say, you know, there was no input from, other than the council on moving forward on even something as small as in, what, we do this on a regular basis forever, and then all of a sudden, this comes back and bites you in the, but anyway, that's just a comment.
I don't think $500 is a small amount of money for a small business. I just don't. Small businesses are, in some instances, trying to just survive here. So I think $500 or $800 or whatever the case might be could be consequential, especially at a time where we're looking to do things like, we're looking to streamline processes, for example, so that with the new signed bylaw that eventually will be introduced, it's looking to eliminate a lot of the bureaucracy and the need for attorney's fees, for example. We've talked a lot about that to make it easier for businesses. And I just, we're talking about, wanting to encourage facade work, and there's a great program that the Savings Bank has come up with now for that purpose. We're wanting people to improve their storefronts, to improve their signage, all these things. That all costs money, and we can help them, but I don't think it makes sense to, streamline things in one way to make it more cost effective, only to then have them absorb a higher, cost on the other end for licensing fees and the like. So I just don't feel like the timing is right for this. I know just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it. And I think in this case, this is one where I'd like to keep things where they are for right now. I don't think it's going to be a discernible difference in terms of revenue for us, but I do think it is a significant impact to local businesses. And I think it's dismissive to say that $500 or $300, or even clubs, for example, increasing the clubs from $500 to $1,000. I mean, that's 100% increase. I don't think that's appropriate, and I know that we're low, Steve, so I totally get that. I just feel like I think it's small money, but a big impact or a big burden on businesses potentially. And so I'd rather we kind of keep things as they are for right now.
Steve, just a quick question. When was the last time we had increases in this? I know you might have discussed it at the last meeting, but
I would say good 20 years.
20 years.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Not since I've been on the
Yeah.
board.
20?
Yeah.
Probably, at least 10 or 15, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would a club also have to pay the increased alcohol, presumably, if they also sell alcohol? So it would be a cumulative impact?
No, they have
They have a separate?
they have a club alcohol
Oh,
license,
it's
whatever it is.
it's an embedded
Right,
alcohol.
it's the $1,000 or $500, whatever it is, yeah.
Okay.
Right now, the club out is for the club out, right, for the club it's 500, you're requesting that we're putting it up to 1,000
Right.
though. Okay, so that's where I was saying, the jump to those clubs, a lot of them.
They just pay that. I think the
Some of
question
them are
was-
struggling and some of them aren't. So,
I think the question was that they just pay that, they don't pay the others.
I thought they had
Right.
to also pay
Yeah.
a liquor
Right.
license
They
on
just
top
pay that
of it.
one month.
No, but each one of those clubs has to pay an entertainment for each television that they have inside their facilities, or each machine that they have inside their facilities. So when they come in for a license, they're not only paying for the alcohol, they're also paying for every item that's inside the club. So it goes up. Right. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Is this something that we, sorry.
Table?
That's right.
So I motion we table it because I think people have made some great points. And maybe we should think about maybe a straight percentage across, I was just thinking, as opposed to
that's
just
not a bad
jumping
idea,
up
too.
to make
Tony and
it.
I were just talking about, just,
Oh, you-
we were,
good you.
and you must have heard us.
No, I was thinking, because in my
I'm
mind, I
teasing,
was
I'm
doing like
teasing.
15%.
No, I think it's
See,
a
great
good idea.
minds.
It's
So what we'll
lot.
do is
It's
then,
a lot.
if that's the purview of the board, we'll
Yeah.
keep, it'll be the same for this year.
Same for this year,
And
and
then we'll
let's,
bring something back later on.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it won't come back between now and then.
But you don't want to
Okay.
hurt anyone, and that's, to.
And Ed will
Ed's
donate the
point.
40,000 that we would have made. on the-
There you go.
Just to do 2 points, though, that the money raised wasn't insignificant. It was actually gonna cost for people's time, who spend a lot of time doing this and keeping track of it. So
Absolutely.
I wanna make that clear, that it is not insignificant. It was a significant amount of money. And I also wanna say, Steve, so we did talk about this 2 weeks ago. We were very good
Yeah.
about not voting. Did you get any comments? Did you?
No.
Okay,
No.
so to Paul's point then, that this was actually put out there, I didn't get any phone calls about any of
Nope,
it either.
neither
And we
did I.
did discuss it at our last meeting.
We did.
So
Sure.
I'm fine tabling it and coming up with other solutions, but I
Yeah.
just, some assumptions are not true, just to
Well,
note.
I think to say, when I'm saying it's not significant, in a $90 million budget, I don't think the $40,000 is significant when you offset that by the cost to the businesses. It's not nothing, but it's also, I think we have to look at, also the perception of businesses here, and if they feel like they're getting squeezed with additional fees, I'm concerned about that. I think that's an issue.
No one's disagreeing with you, but it hasn't been raised in 20 years also, so
Okay.
the
Which is a
squeeze
big deal.
has not come for a long time.
Motion.
Yeah, no one's squeezing businesses here, Ed. It's, trying to bring ourselves in line, just into the 21st century. These haven't been raised in 20 years. I mean, we're looking at fees that have probably been the same since, in the mid to late 90s.
But I'm not gonna take my guidance from what Saugus is doing, for example, in terms of their
No.
fees. I mean, we're bringing the line based upon like a sampling of certain communities. Just because other communities are doing something, I mean, we like to pride ourselves in being, the pioneers or leaders in things. I don't know that we need to make ourselves less business friendly by increasing fees. I don't care what Saugus does. I don't wanna be Saugus, I wanna be Wakefield, and I think that, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Steve, I understand why you
No,
brought
that's
it.
fine.
I just think
Yeah,
that from,
new model.
from my perspective, I think the timing is not appropriate for this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody around this table wants to be like Saugus.
I want their tax revenue.
No, you don't.
You don't.
So
Yeah.
I have a motion to table.
Second.
Oh, yeah, Julie, did you have one?
Actually, let's do this and then I have
Okay, all
something.
right. Okay, so we have the motion second, you said? Okay, all in favor of tabling this particular
Aye.
item? Aye, is that 7-0? Okay, and Julie, go ahead.
I just didn't want to lose sight of the waiving the nonprofit, so I don't know whether that's a separate vote or whether it just becomes a policy.
We can still look at it, at one-offs.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it now?
Sure, if everybody's in favor of it.
Any
Well, we're talking
issues with that?
I move that we waive
Yeah.
we waive the the 1-day fee for Wakefield nonprofits,
Second.
Liquor licenses.
liquor licenses,
Liquor
yes.
licenses, right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 7-0. So, that's good. That makes sense. Okay, so warrant review and signing. Warrant number 6 dated August 9th, 2018 through warrant 11 dated September 11th, 2018. Julie?
Oh, very exciting.
Excellent.
Goose control was
What-
on those warrants, and actually, a lot of school textbooks, and having just come from the high school, back-to-school night, and learned that a lot of those are actually online now, including this program called Avancemos, which is a Spanish, where they can really listen to things. So I'm glad to see the investment being made in online school books, particularly for languages.
Well, thank you for your review and signing. Okay, so matters not anticipated by the chairperson within 48 hours of meeting. Let's do a little differently. Paul, let's start with you, since you weren't going to be ready for me. So yeah, we're going to mix it up tonight.
I'm just going to bring up a couple of items that are pretty much like a progress report. This week, we had the wayfinding committee meeting. It was a great meeting, and we are actually came out of that meeting with a vote to bring it forward, work on it, and then come to a future meeting to make a presentation. Mr. Dombrowski and I sat through multiple meetings, the great group that was part of that. I mean, they all should be commended. Ed will work on with Mr. Mayo in regards, and Mr. Favorman, and come forward in probably a month or so and make a presentation with Mr. Favorman for this board to consider. So that's a good step in the right direction for the wayfinding and branding of the town. This morning, I had the privilege of being in Melrose at the chamber breakfast with Mr. Ash. He's an amazing man. I was more proud of the fact that Wakefield was in line with almost every item that he said. And every time that he said one other thing, I kept on tapping Steve and saying, Steve, what do you think? I mean, it was great. So he came up with some great ideas. I like the concept of being bipartisanship, moves things forward on most issues. And that can be said to be a true statement. The businesses, shop local, be small, should be a component that the towns always look into when they try to move forward, because they need the most help within your downtown. Bring the people in to it. Bring in the housing as a component into your downtown mixed use. So it's all better ways of bringing vibrancy to the entire community. So I really enjoyed that one, and I just wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Maureen?
Sure, so a couple of updates. The Human Rights Commission was here earlier. They talked about two upcoming events that they have. October 11th, there is the book club about The Hate You Give at the library, and then October 16th, the Anti-Defamation League is coming. I'm hoping to see a lot of members from my fellow council and also from the town at both those events. I think with the two racist, just racist graffiti that we had in town, I really want our town to show that we are better than that, and that is not who we are. So I hope people can go to those two events, and I hope it's a continued conversation we have. As the police investigate on a criminal side, we make a statement from our town that that's not okay. And on that vein, the Cultural Council, which we have, has a really great program right now. They have grant money that you can apply for, that they will distribute out for arts, humanities, and science programs, and they're due October 15th. So if you or your group or your school has a good idea about a program, apply for a Cultural Council grant. They are going to distribute the money in our town.
Excellent, thank you. Sherry?
All set.
You're set. Julie?
Flu shots, we're going into flu season, so flu shots are being given by our Department of Public Health, including this Saturday at the farmer's market. It's free for most insurances and a $10 fee for those that aren't. Most people, if they checked their mail today, probably got their ballot information, which includes a way to register to vote. You need to register to vote by October 17th to vote in the upcoming midterm elections. And I just wanted to say that today was a tough day, I think, on a federal level. And a lot of us have been thinking about it, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I think it has triggered a lot of, hard things for a lot of people. And I just want to point out that here in our community, we have a lot of resources, like Wave Online has some resources for people who may have experienced or loved ones who have experienced assault. We have the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center. So anybody who's kind of having a tough time as all of these revelations come out, I think really should not be afraid to reach out. And we have some great resources.
Okay. Ed?
I have two things. One is Wakefield Alliance Against Violence, WAVE, is having its 5K run next Saturday, the 6th, I believe, and that's an important cause and a great race. So please come out to support that. There was also the point that Paul had made earlier about the Greater Wakefield Chamber of Commerce, as we call it, having a breakfast today with Secretary Jay Ash from the Baker administration, and he had a lot of really good ideas, but what was nice to hear from his remarks was how much we're doing here in Wakefield or intending to do here in Wakefield. And in fact, we were in Melrose, but I think Wakefield was mentioned more times than Melrose. You didn't hear the name Linfield the entire morning. So that just goes to show that, we are getting recognized for the work that we're doing and what we have in the works with that. And finally, I just want to congratulate the Main Streets program as well. They had a great annual meeting the other evening as well. A number of us were there for that. They are doing some really important work as well. And so being able to support things at the local level is so incredibly important. So congratulations to them and onward. That's all I have.
Excellent. Thanks, Ed. Ann?
I saw Julie in passing at back to school night for the high school last week. And it just underscored that, that building is a tough building. Some of the classrooms are not in great shape. The teachers bring in what they can to make their space better. But the teachers, at least that I encountered, were outstanding. And it just, the teachers in that building were fabulous. And were engaged and we're doing new things. And it made me feel, I was proud to have my son back there. But boy, does that building need some help. And I don't usually do this, but a traffic request. I had to drop something off at the high school that my son left. So I got there probably at like 7:35 or something. The traffic was nutso. And I see why people get in accidents. I had to cross 4 lanes of traffic, and I'm not the most delicate of drivers, so I managed it. But there used to be a cop standing on that circle. In the afternoon, I don't think they need it, because then, I know there's a lot of traffic, but people can deal with it, but they don't get the commuters. So you're getting commuters. The traffic was backed up to Water Street. And then people trying to go on the inside, and people trying to come out of, I'm totally forgetting.
Montrose?
No, not Montrose. No, I don't care about Montrose. I mean, I care about Montrose, but I'm talking about Nahant.
All the way to Melbourne.
Crazy, just all because there's not this, in my own commute, I drive through Stone and Melrose every day, and there's police officers scattered on certain corners that are tricky, that just help the flow. So I would just ask, maybe our traffic folks can put think about putting a body.
We're definitely working
just
on
for the
that,
morning.
Lieutenant Scory. I mean, that's been coming up. We've talked about
It's
it
been
here.
coming out for years.
Oh, I know, but
And there
we're-
used to be.
We're definitely working
Oh, you're
on
working
that.
towards it. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know you guys were.
It's driving me crazy, so I totally agree.
Yeah, no,
And people
that,
call me
that was
and
stark to
my
me.
neighbors call me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
The worst intersection in Wakefield.
God, it has been for
At that
50
time.
years, probably. Tony?
I was at the Main Streets dinner Tuesday night with, I was gonna say selectmen, but councilors, Dombrowski, Ann, Peter was there, Stephen was there for a little bit, a couple of us won a couple of prizes, I believe.
Paul was there.
Paul, I'm sorry, Paul.
I was sitting at your table.
Yeah, so they're pleased to announce the Savings Bank and the Co-op are gonna have a loan program for businesses that want to repair the facade of their building, which is gonna be at prime interest rate, so it's a great deal. So more details on that to follow. And something that just kinda like, pulled on me tonight was, we talked so much about the lake, how beautiful it is, and it is the anchor for our town in a lot of ways. People walk around the lake, and it's the draw for so many people, but you know what? You still can't swim in that lake, and it just seems there's a little bit of hypocrisy going around. We talk so much about the lake, but yet we've done nothing about improving that water quality. So I think something has to go forward. I mean, we can't keep doing nothing year after year after year. And I know there have been a bunch of solutions out there, such as solar bees and opening the dams and aluminum sulfate. And I think next spring is the time to do something. I can't wait another year to do nothing at that lake.
I think at a future meeting, you'll be hearing from our new town engineer and fairly new stormwater manager to really go through that. So you're absolutely right. So
Good,
the
excellent.
old committee is kind of wrapping up, waiting for their consultant's report, and then the time will be to move into implementation mode. So
And we
yes,
talked about the
yep.
benches and everything
Yep.
else, but really, it's the water
Absolutely.
quality issue that has just not gotten better.
Well, there is a bench in the water, so someone's using it. Person's using it in town.
That's all right.
You good?
It's a
I'm
strange-
good.
It's a strange thing.
Tom?
Just want to suggest that when the council revisits the fees issue next time, that there be some effort to reflect, at least in the minutes, the fact that each fee covers, or maybe doesn't quite cover, the associated costs. There's been a lot of discussion about what other towns charge or how long it's been since we raised our fees.
Right.
Legally, the only standard that's relevant is, are you covering your costs or are you using this to raise revenue? The latter's a no-no, the former is okay. I have no doubt that we could substantiate it, but believe it or not, there was one city, Fall River, that was charging something like $15 for a death certificate. And somebody challenged it and the city lost. So I'm sure that was a failure of advocacy, but let's not go there.
Excellent. Steve?
Just a couple of things. Number one, I should have mentioned this when WCNA was here, but that fence on Church Street, the wrought iron fence, was WCNA, and it looks fabulous. So thank you to them. They're a group in town that just does wonderful work. Councilor Santos brought up the storefront bylaw a few weeks ago. I am happy to report that the bylaw committee is actually working on it. I think we have a couple of us have weighed in. I went there the other night. They're looking to bring something back in the spring.
Great.
We also heard today from our good friend Jay Ash, he's a great friend of Wakefield, that there is a empty storefront, some sort of statute that I wrote down, and I gotta look into that tomorrow to see, what does that mean, and what can we do to actually help out people that have empty storefronts? So I thought that was interesting. A couple of MMA activities coming up in October. Please let me know if you want to go so I can register us. And Judy at the Senior Center is having a Dementia in Your Community workshop on Tuesday, October 23rd, or a meeting, I should say, at 10 o'clock at the, at 30 Conver Street at the McCarthy Senior Center. So this is a really based to help businesses and anybody who deals with the public work better with people that maybe have dementia and how you do it. So it's a nice, another nice little activity that they're doing at the Senior Center. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Just one note from me, I want to just mention with myself being the FinCom liaison, we, Dan Sherman, myself, and Bill Carroll actually are going to meet Saturday probably to vote on a couple new members. So just to let you know, I'm sure we'll probably decide everything on Saturday, so just an FYI. And next board meeting, October 15th, 2018, is 6:30 if there is an executive session necessary. If not, it'll be 7 o'clock for those folks that have to drive over the speed limit to get here or take trains. Yes?
Did we put out request for applicants for FinCom?
Did we?
We did, and they had a lot that they went over last time, and the chairman of that committee decided that he was going to go with what they had from the last round. They had
From last year,
Last spring, I think.
last spring?
Yeah.
There was
So
still
if
7.
anyone wants to apply for the vacant seats?
That's not, by our board doesn't appoint it, so it's kind of a different process, so.
So
Peter's
there's
the-
just three, there's just three of us that do
Right.
the voting. It's not kind of unusual.
So if anyone, there's 2 seats available, so if anyone wants to.
Yeah, they should.
We didn't open up anything, or is there anyone that we can send? people
If you
can-
send them to, I guess to me, I can forward it along, it's probably the easiest way to do
Right.
it.
But,
Yeah.
so we didn't
Dan's-
do it, though?
No, we did not,
No,
because
because
it
there were
wasn't,
so many applicants for the last
right,
go-round.
but, and it's not
But
something
this
that,
isn't,
but it's not something that we appoint.
Yeah,
So it's a different.
Right, so it's a little
but I've
different
been on
twist.
that, I've been on
Right.
that committee before, so,
Is that the only committee that appoints its own members?
yeah.
Okay, so, can we get an adjournment? Anyone have?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Good, another 7.
Thank you very much.